I'm just watching for the setup to go live to YouTube, and we're good. Looks like we've got a few board members joining us too. Just so everyone's aware, I invited some board members. We had a board meeting last night and thought it'd be great for them to be able to come in and join us. Ooh, In the Dark on Netflix. That sounds interesting. That's awesome. So over the last week, let's see, we finished Waco. We watched The Last Dance, which was really cool. And actually, I'm going to give some reflection on that in a future town hall. Just I thought that was incredible. And then we tried this one called Hangar One on Netflix that was kind of previewed. That was interesting, but actually that got me into the X-Files. So my wife hasn't really watched the X-Files. So we started watching X-Files, which is, there's apparently something like 245 episodes of X-Files over all of the seasons. So I have no idea if we'll make it through, but so far we're up to 6 or 7. All right, we have a bunch of people here. We're up to 47, that's cool. Okay, let me just pull up my notes and then we can kind of get going here. All right. Okay. So again, welcome to Town Hall. We'll get rolling. We're live right now on YouTube, which is pretty cool. That's a little different. We're doing that because we're doing a special interview of Champions in the Crisis today with Tony and Precious, and that'll be towards the end of our time together. What I'm going to do, so since there's 50 of us, and there'll probably be 50 or 60 of us before we're done this meeting, for now, I have everyone muted. If you go to participants and you need to get some attention, please raise your hand and I'll try to have you unmute. Or if you have something that is urgent that you need to say, please unmute and let us all know. I'm going to unmute all, and just right now, if you're a board member, could you just let us know that you are here?
That is for our redheads out there. Anybody can get away with it when it comes to the.
Hi, Alan. Steve Rayton's here.
Hey, Steve.
Chris. Hey, everybody. Chris Kane's here.
Awesome. So Steve and Chris, any other board members join us today? Cool.
Yeah,
meet yourself.
So I just want to welcome everybody. I'm going to go back on mute just to make it manageable. So just again, if you have any questions, either unmute yourself or just do the hand raise thing. I'll try to pay attention to that, and we'll get rolling into our meeting here. Couple things I've been thinking about here that I wanted to just share. So we talked about that. Okay, so I'm curious, please put this in the chat for now, or raise your hand. That's probably the easiest way. But if you had anybody, if you did any special kind of good for another person this week, remember last week we talked about the power of doing good for others, to others, how it decreases stress, increases life expectancy, helps make us feel better, be happier at work, promotes better mental health and leads to happiness, and it motivates us to kind of do it again. So I was just curious if anybody, took it upon themselves to do any extra good and what that was. So please feel free to throw that in the chat box, just so that we can see that. That could be good. I'm just looking to see in chat right now. Cool. So George donated food and money to Arlington Food Bank. That's awesome. Just looking to see if anybody has their hands up. I don't see that, so it's good. Okay. Yeah, so I want to just encourage all of us to keep thinking about how to do good for others through this time, and how to take that to the next level, really as a way that we can be able to kind of just cope with all the stressors that are happening. And it's a way that we can bless other people, and in doing so, kind of help ourselves with our mental health, because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I'd love to have Steve kind of open up by sharing just a welcome to everybody. Steve is our board chair, and Steve, I'm going to unmute you here. At least I'm going to try. Maybe I have to unmute all. Steve, if you could.
And cocaine don't connect.
Oh.
By all accounts,
Hi, Alan. I like getting a lot of other noise.
Diversity frequencies of lines and this now.
Went back to his apartment.
Okay. I'll message one on the side, but Steve, thanks again for dropping in.
There we go. Yeah, I was just sorry, Alan. I was that seems a little bit better. Maybe the background noise has decreased. Can you hear me okay?
Fine. Yep.
Fantastic. Yeah, I just wanted to say a huge thanks from everyone on the board. We've had a chance to get a lot of information from Alan and the whole team about just how hard everyone is working and the extraordinary steps that people are taking to help each other and to help the people that St. John's serves. And I want to make sure that everyone knows that everyone on the board appreciates what you're doing and wants to say thank you for your efforts, not only getting us here to the end of May, but we know that there's going to be a lot of hard work and energy and emotion expended over the summer and through the year, and the ability that y'all have to keep your spirits up and to keep yourselves motivated and committed and helping folks. It's just amazing. So thank you to each and every one of you.
Thank you, Steve. And then Chris, if you'd like to add anything as well. It's great that you joined us this afternoon as well.
I just want to thank all of you for being so dedicated and strong. Stay healthy. We love you. Thanks for everything you do.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Appreciate both of you coming today. And I'm just going to put everybody back on mute, and then kind of we'll move into the Vespers portion here of our meeting. So as we talked about this last week, so Vespers kind of is a Catholic Anglican church tradition, and the idea that their congregation would gather in the evening, gather in the morning, and they would all do a reflection together. And I wanted to kind of reflect that. I realized that as we've been talking about the impact of COVID on our team members and on the people we support, that's kind of our reflection. This is an opportunity for us to come together and really think about those that have been impacted, hold them in our hearts, say some prayers for them. So I just wanted to kind of revisit that and update you on where we stand this week. Good news on some fronts for people we support. We do have 8 people right now that have tested positive for those that we support. Again, that is mostly in Virginia and DC. And we do have 1 individual that's hospitalized currently. And that the breakdown of that, I believe, is 7 in Virginia and 1 in DC right now out of the 8 people that we support. The good news is that we have had 7 people recover in DC, which is a blessing. That's incredible. But we still need to kind of keep thinking about and praying for those that are that we support right now that are struggling with the virus. And then also for staff, we've had an increase in staff, and we've got now 22 that are staff members that have tested positive with 2 hospitalizations. So that's big news. Things have spiked in Virginia, where we have 12 staff members that have tested positive, and then we have 10 in DC. And again, I can't say enough about the staff and all that they do. So many staff have volunteered again to shelter in place, to work 12-hour shifts, to do anything necessary, frankly, to try to protect the individuals that they support. And from the bottom of our hearts, we just say thank you for doing that. We know that it's selfless. We know that you are putting yourself in harm's way, that you're leaving your families for extended periods of time and your loved ones. And we just want to thank you for just being who you are and showing us, demonstrating to us the values of St. John's and yourself, and really putting the lives of the individuals that we support and serve front and center, and to be that they would be the most important thing. So thank you for that. But I would like us to all just take a moment of silence as we think about those individuals we support and those staff members that have tested positive, those that are in the hospital, and those that are struggling to overcome the virus. Thank you for that. Thank you for joining me in that, and thank you for holding them in your hearts and in your prayers. Talking about good news in programs, today is Frontline Friday, and we thank Ms. Dorothy Walker. She has been a DSP here in DC for 1.5 years. Interesting fun fact about Dorothy that you could see on the hashtag Frontline Friday on Facebook is that she's a Fortnite fan. When she's not working, she is playing Fortnite with her kids, which is awesome. And as we ask every Frontline Friday ambassador to essentially pick a quote that represents them, her quote is, "Do not put off to tomorrow what you could do today." Do not put off to tomorrow what you could do today. And that absolutely is a perfect quote for all of us. And just we thank you, Dorothy, for all that you do on behalf of those that you support. And congratulations on being our hashtag Frontline Friday. And thank you for everything that you do. Good news as well. It's amazing. We still, in New York, Tennessee, and Delaware, have no positives, which is incredible in terms of testing for COVID. And then on top of that, as I mentioned earlier, we've now had 7 people that we support recover in DC, which is just also great. So I wouldn't yet say we are over the hump on this, but we do have good news to report. And again, I just keep coming back to thanking the staff that are working longer shifts, that are practicing social distancing themselves in order to be able to ensure the safety of those that we support. And also, you know, I would even say, I would say this is good news in one regard. We've started seeing things open up a little bit and loosen. And while we are being very cautious and I have concerns about some of the restrictions being lifted and some of the timing, one young man was able to celebrate his 21st birthday with his mom, who came to visit him, and they practiced social distancing. They put those protocols in place, but it's good to see families being able to be reunited. So thank you, staff, for helping to manage that tension, because I do realize it is a tension to manage as you're going through that, but I really appreciate that so much for making those opportunities possible as the world starts to kind of return to our new normal, or become more of our new normal. And then, as I mentioned before, as we transition to HR update, health and safety, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. We talked a lot about that last week. And I want to make sure I've got a new resource available to you that a board member made me aware of. And I want to make sure that everyone knows about this. And we will make sure to put this on the staff updates portion of our website, as well as on their app. It's called crisistextline.org. So crisistextline.org. And maybe, Ryan, if you could put that in the chat, that'd be great. crisistextline.org, all one word. And then how it works is it's free, 24/7 confidential crisis counseling, all by text. And to access it, you text 741-741. Sorry, you text HOME, HOME, to 741-741. All right, so that's HOME to 741-741. And that connects you through this incredible app that's secure and confidential to a crisis hotline and counselor that will talk to you and support you. And again, it's 24/7, free and confidential. So I put that on my Facebook page and shared that out earlier today. And I want to make sure that you're aware of it. We'll share it on our Facebook page at the right time as well for St. John's. But great access, great resource for any one of us that could be struggling at this point in time. Their slogan is social distancing may be lonely, but you're not alone. And I think that's so powerful and so needed right now. So again, crisistextline.org, text home to 741-741, free 24/7 confidential crisis counseling. And then also just either by a show, well, maybe not a show of hands, maybe a show of video hands, how many people have double checked their info on ADP, right? Have you been on ADP and updated your information? I hope so. It's really important as we prepare for open enrollment, which we're targeting towards the end of May. Please make sure that your info is updated and complete in ADP. Your email is important. Your phone number is important. We need to make sure that we know how to get a hold of you. Your beneficiary information is crucial. If you remember, I mentioned last week that it's going to be an active enrollment, which means you have to select your benefits. Your benefits won't automatically continue, so it's important that you either proactively call the call center, our partners that we'll be working with, and we'll get all this information out to you on ADP, as well as up on TheraP and through email. We'll make sure that you're aware of it. But if we don't hear from you in about a week or so, we are going to have them call you. And so it's important that we have your contact information. Having your contact information is also key as we roll out our new communication system called Rave. And that will allow us through text, through email, to be able to get a hold of you and make you aware of, anything from a very serious situation to an opportunity. So we'll be sure to get that to you if we have your information. So again, moral of the story, update your info. But thank you for doing that. And then I'm going to sound like a broken record every week, but I want to just keep stressing that even though people are starting to go back to normal life, when I go out and I'm walking around the neighborhood or going for a walk with my wife, we're seeing lots of people that aren't wearing masks, and are walking right by other people. And so I just want to remind you all that please practice healthy social distancing when you're not on shift. When you are on shift, you have to wear a mask. We got to make sure that you're protecting those people that you're supporting. The mask is for the benefit of others. And we're trying our best to make sure that our residences have the PPE that they need and that our staff have the tools that they need. So if you have a need, please let your supervisor know. But please make sure you're practicing healthy social distancing outside of work, but especially on the job as well. And if you think that you've been exposed to COVID, please contact your supervisor and follow those local health department protocols for testing. And then also follow through with return to work protocols as well. It's important that you work when you can. We absolutely need you now more than ever. But we got to make sure that you're in touch with your supervisor and following through on any protocols if you feel like you've been exposed. On the finance update, we're progressing through the month of May. We made it through April. That's amazing. Now we're mid-May now, actually 22nd, so towards the second half of May. And we have been able to manage so far. We are anticipating a deficit, a couple bumps in the road ahead of us over the next couple of weeks. However, that being said, we do have enough liquidity right now, thanks to everyone managing both our expenses, our payables, and then working so hard on the billing front. We've got enough liquidity and money coming in the door right now that we believe that we should be able to manage through that brief deficit period in the next couple of weeks. And we keep looking at that multiple times during the course of the week to make sure and plan how are we going to essentially make sure that we can keep going as an organization, pay our bills, pay our staff, and be in a better position coming out of this. So May and June look to have some challenges, but right now it looks like we have enough liquidity. Also want to share some good news. I've been telling you that we've been working on hazard pay. Part of the PPP funds that we received will allow us to use those PPP funds for hazard pay. And so accounting and HR right now are working out the calculations of that with the leadership team. And we hope that we can go live with that 2 payrolls from now. So it will not be in the next pay period, but we're hoping that it'll be in the following paycheck. And this is for direct care staff. And we're looking at tiering it for direct care staff and then for direct care staff that are working directly with people that are COVID positive. So not all of this is finalized. I'm just sharing with you what I know at this point in time in the framework that's being discussed. So it's not official yet. We're also going to try to make this retro back as far back as we can relative to based on the rules of the usage of PPP funds. So you may have heard by now, PPP funds right now are allowed to be used for an 8-week period of time. And typically it's from when they have funded your account, funded your loan. And so it took us a little bit to get access through the bank to one of the accounts that we needed to be able to access those funds. And but we are looking to, because that, be able to retro or basically account for that to make sure that we're able to pay employees the appropriate levels of hazard pay based on the PPP funds. For those jurisdictions where we didn't receive PPP funds, like Delaware or New York, we are working on a plan for that as well. So again, I understand that this is taking time. I appreciate your patience, but we are working on solutions for this, and we do want to recognize and support our frontline workers, our DSPs and direct care staff that are working so diligently to make sure that the people we support are being cared for and having all of their needs met. So more to come on that, but I just wanted you to be aware of that. And I've also been sharing how Rich has been heading up the effort to work with states and the leadership team regarding analyzing our service lines and whether there'll be need for further restructuring. And also when, where, how, and if certain service lines will reopen and at what time. All of that is really important to carefully plan out. And we need to make sure that we're financially in a good place to do so. And so Rich is working on that plan. I'm hoping to have recommendations from Rich. He's targeting around the 26th, which is next week. And so as we learn more, we will obviously communicate that at the appropriate time. It is possible that we're going to continue to have to do restructuring. The reality is that some of our service lines, we're losing money at a rate that we can't subsidize. And so that's why we need to do that analysis, because we've taken such a hit from the pandemic. We can't afford to subsidize programs that are losing money. They might be doing great work. In fact, I'm sure all of them are doing amazing work and touching lives and impacting people's lives. But if we don't have the liquidity or the resources to bring to bear to subsidize that, and if they can't quickly be turned around, then we may have to look at doing some adaptation to them or modifying them or restructuring them in some capacity. Again, it's not something I relish. It's not something that we want to do, but it's something that we are taking on as a project to make sure that we understand our financial viability, especially as we consider that the crisis or this pandemic could be impacting us for the next 12 to 18 months. So we've got some great minds around this. We've got lots of dialogue happening, lots of analysis happening, and just want to keep that in front of you, and we will keep you posted on that. On the marketing and development side of the house, many of you commented very positively about the interview, Champions in the Crisis, with Carol Barth. Wasn't she amazing? She's just a great person, ardent supporter of St. John's, and just really articulated an amazing story for how her and her husband selected St. John's back in 2007 to support Alex. And then also how and why they became financial supporters. And obviously this is tied to the campaign that we're doing right now, but really cool. And be sure you can check that out by going to our YouTube channel. It is still up on our social feed as well, so you can find that there. And then next up, later in this meeting in a few minutes, actually, we're going to be doing Champions in the Crisis with Precious and Tony, which we're really excited to hear about their inspiring yet amazingly challenging story. And then next week, we'll be doing a live version as well with David Bennett as part of our campaign. David is a former board member. And then John Jackson Jr. had an awesome pre-recorded interview with him yesterday, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, but he talks about his work in DC, Delaware, as well as with our new Oasis program. And so we'll be launching that most likely first week in June. You will be noticing come Memorial Day that we're doing some new things with our logo. One of the things I've loved about the SJCS logo is I always thought it was very versatile and could be used for some pretty cool creative means. So Ryan went to work, and in honor of Memorial Day, you will see a special rendition of a red, white, and blue flag edition of the SJCS logo. to honor those that have served and those that have died and given their lives in service to our country. And then really excited about this one as well. June is LGBTQ month. And in honor of that, he is already working on a logo with the rainbow flag. And then we'll also be working on updating our signature lines for team members that want to show their support for those that are in the LGBTQ community during the month of June. So more info to come on that, but be on the lookout. And then also in honor of LGBTQ month, I would love to highlight either how our programs support people from the LGBTQ community, or I'd love to highlight team members that are part of the LGBTQ community. So if that is you and you are willing to be interviewed about your work at SJCS, please let me know. You can email me at athornton@sjcs.org. You can text me at 315-380-3086. And I'm sure Ryan can drop that in. But that would be really, really cool to be able to hear your story of your work here at SJCS and be able to have you share your perspective being a member of the LGBTQ community. So more to come on those as we roll out through May and turn the corner going into June. And then I've got some great news to share with you. As you recall, this is a big month for us. We launched on hashtag Giving Tuesday Now on May 5th. And we kicked off a month-long campaign where we're trying to raise $75,000 through June 5th. And we're able to do this with a generous 2-to-1 match from the Founders Board. So we've transitioned to calling the campaign hashtag Campaign for Champions, as well as hashtag The Big Match. And so far, I got the latest report today, about an hour ago. We have raised $30,736. $30,736. So we're just shy of $31,000. So that's incredible. That is the most we've ever raised in a single campaign that I'm aware of. And it's thanks to you getting the word out, you donating, you telling your friends and family why you support St. John's. So in order to keep this momentum going, please like and share our posts. Please, when you share a post, share your story a little bit. Like, what's your St. John's story? Why are you why are you supportive of St. John's? Why do you donate and give what you can? Why do you do the work that you can? Why do you love the mission, the people that we support? All of that is so important because it's, I can certainly get out there and put a video out there and ask for help. Nothing moves people like hearing a friend's story. And so if you have a story to tell about why you care so much about St. John's and the people we support, now's the time to share it and ask people to consider giving. Any gift of any size matters. We need it now. We need it for PPE and to protect our team members and protect the people we support. We need it to be able to use enabling technology and get the tools needed in different residences to keep them connected to their healthcare providers and their loved ones, and for us to be able to remotely support them and for them to be able to live at their fullest. So we have these needs, and it's a great opportunity for the community to rally and get engaged. So thank you for all you've done. Thank you for all you've given so far, and let's keep the momentum going. Wanted to just see if there's any staff questions before we kind of transition into the last part of our meeting. So I'm looking in the chat right now. If there's any staff questions, if you could drop them in the chat briefly, that would be great. And for now, we'll just kind of press pause for the next 30 seconds, minute to see if anybody has a question to ask. Or another way would be to raise your hand just raise your hand under the participant tab. Okay, I'm not seeing anything come through. And again, Ryan will put in the chat what our email address is for staff questions. And I think it's questions.staff@sjcs.org. The other thing I would just point out is you can always reach out to HR too if you have questions during this time, sjcshr@sjcs.org. Okay, seeing no hands and seeing oh, here we go. Thank you very much. Questions.staff@sjcs.org. So again, realizing that this is unprecedented, things are changing, you might have questions. You know, so the resources available to you, certainly ask through that chat, questions.staff@sjcs.org, as well as sjcshr@sjcs.org. And then again, we continue to keep updating resources on the sjcs.org/staff updates part of the website. We want to make sure that if you have questions, if we can support you, that we're doing that during this time. And we've had people reach out. I really appreciate that. And thank you for that. And I hope that that's been helpful. I hope that as staff members, as team members, that you felt heard, that you felt that you've been able to be in a place to ask questions, whether confidentially or being able to just come out with a particular question. We're trying, especially during this time, to ramp up our communication with you all, to stay connected and to make sure that you know the latest that we know, and that if you have concerns that we're trying to address them and answer them. We realize it's a very fluid time and very much appreciate all the work that you're doing and your patience with us. So now we're getting to kind of the really exciting part of our time together. And so I am going to, we're going to do a Champions in the Crisis interview with Tony and Precious. I am going to set up for that. We're going to start recording, and I'm going to unmute Precious and Tony, and we will kind of dive in. So give me 2 seconds here to find them, and then we'll, there we go. Precious, are you able to unmute yourself? Because right now, I have to find you.
I did it.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, it only gives me the option to unmute all. So let me just hit record, and then we'll just dive right in. All right, so we're recording. First, I am super thrilled because for Champions in the Crisis, we're doing a live version right now on YouTube. 2 incredibly special team members here at SJCS, Tony and Precious, and they have an incredible story. And Tony, a few weeks ago, we were incredibly fearful for what was going on because you had come down with COVID and you were admitted to the hospital. Before we get there, just checking in, how are you doing today? How is recovery going, and what is the latest?
I'm like 90 to 95% better. I'm able to walk now, working on the neighborhood when I can. So I just got a couple of follow-ups to do with my doctors, cardiology for my heart and a lung doctor for my lungs, because the COVID is a beast. It attacks your whole body. And so I'm trying to figure out the after effects, how it affected me. So I'm just doing a couple of follow-ups there, but then I should be ready to go.
Yeah, because they're still figuring out like that this thing marks and changes, or there's nuances, new ways that it's impacting people, right? And you've experienced that since you've come out of the hospital. That's incredible. Precious, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I am happy. I feel much more relaxed, at ease. I have a different outlook about life. I have a different viewpoint about friends, family, love, everything. Faith, just everything has totally changed. I'm smelling a new batch of roses.
Well, so that is awesome for both of you. I couldn't be happier for both of you, but if you wouldn't mind, let's back up to kind of the beginning of this story, because it got pretty rough pretty fast. Tony, how quickly did you come down with symptoms? Like, walk us through that process, or both of you kind of walk us through the process of you contracting it, getting ill, and then kind of the snowball that just turned into an avalanche from there.
Well, I was feeling sick. Like, it felt like the flu at first. Like, I was having, I lost like 25 pounds through it. I have lost appetite, couldn't taste anything, coughing, fevers that wasn't relieved by taking the medicine, coughing. I had all the signs and symptoms except for the major one at that time, which is shortness of breath. I didn't have that. But then a week after that, I felt good, but Precious.
No, you went and got tested.
Yeah, I got tested, and then those tests that back then it said 3 to 5 days, but it took like almost 2 weeks before I got my results. And by the time I got my results, that's when I was crashing at home, and I got taken to the hospital with shortness of breath, along with the other sinus symptoms. And then from that point, I went down quickly. Within 24 hours, I was put on a ventilator. I had pneumonia in my left lung.
Both lungs.
Then I went to my right lung, so I had pneumonia in both my lungs. I started having heart arrhythmias, coughing and sweating uncontrollably. So I was crashing for all intents and purposes. All my vital signs, everything was going down low. And then they had to put me on a ventilator to rest my lungs so that they could work on it.
Wow. Yeah, that's mind blowing. Precious, what was it like to see Tony kind of start to decline so rapidly? Because I remember our check-in calls every morning, and we were asking if he got his test back, what's going on, and then you still hadn't heard, and then it just all happened so quick. What was it like?
Well, at first it just looked like a regular cold, and Tony is not the one that gets sick all the time. That's me. He can be in the middle of diseases and not catch a thing. I catch everything. So he was, feeling really sick, and I was like, wow. And he had a temperature, and then, the temperature would not break, even with the Tylenol. And so that March 20th, I said, you need to go get tested. And he went and he got tested. And I think I said it on like the next call, or I text you guys, the leadership team, which is my extended family, so I text you guys saying he had to go get tested. But every day that he was home, he was getting progressively worse. And at first I was like, okay, because he was still responsive, if you will. But then towards the end, I started to become really frantic because he just looked so ill. He just did not look good, but he kept saying, I'm okay, calm down. You always worrying about everything. You always so hype about everything. Chill, chill. I said, no, chill. I said, and I was looking through his bags and looking for his pulse ox machine. And he, Tony has bags and bags and bags and bags, and I could not find it. And so I text, Cherie calls and checks on me. Cherie Young checks on me 14 times a day. And so I said, I can't find the pulse ox, and then just miraculously within a matter of minutes, I don't know where she came from. I never do, but she showed up at the house, dropped off, the pulse ox. That same day, I went up, I took his pulse ox. It was in the low 80s. I said, get up. We're going. We got to go to the hospital.
So, in one hand, I don't know if there's two people that would be better equipped to handle something like this. I mean, Tony, you're a nurse. Precious, you've got extensive background dealing with individuals that have severe disabilities, and you also have connections all over the medical world. I mean, so I'm sure that prepared you, but at the same time, I also believe in the moment, it probably was terrifying to just have this all of a sudden present itself and be declining so quickly.
Yeah, as a nurse, like you said, I've been a nurse for like 23 years, and I didn't want to worry her because she's so hyper, but I was kind of scared, but I didn't want to show it in front of her. But when you're sick, you can't. So as a nurse, and knowing that I was going down so quickly, I was very fearful. Up until the point I was okay, but when they said this put me in a ventilator, in my head I was losing. I was like, oh my God, a ventilator. Oh, that's not a good point to be at. And so, I had some worries in my mind because of my background. I knew what was going to happen. Like you said, sometimes it's worse to know, like ignorance is bliss, but if you know what's going to go down, it could be kind of scary at the same time.
For sure. Precious, if you wouldn't mind remembering, what was it like when they took him at the hospital?
Yeah, when we arrived at the hospital, the thing I was getting antsy going to the hospital, and I'm not always the hype. I'm hype about life. I'm always not, as he is explaining it. But when we was going to the hospital, because he had been in bed for like 10 days straight, he didn't really get up but to go to the bathroom. He was laying down. But when we had to go to the car, get up and go to the car, and then when we got to the hospital, and I chose that hospital to go to, when we got to the hospital, he was hardly holding on. And so I started to, lose it, but I know I needed to still get him there. And he was leaning so heavy. This is a big dude, but he was leaning real heavy on me, and he couldn't catch his breath. 2 steps, 1 step, he could not catch his breath, and it was bad. So when we got to the hospital, they pulled him in, and I knew in the back of my head, because I watched TV, that I wasn't going to be able to go in the room with him, but I didn't know they weren't even going to let me in the hospital at all. Like, go back to your car, sit in the parking lot, whatever you do, you have to go. And so when they were saying, yeah, he's bad, he has to go. And that was actually the same day that the COVID test came back positive. And so they said, well, he's COVID. You can sit and wait in the car while we just check him out. And at first I thought they're just going to check him out, maybe give him some oxygen, and then we're going home. And so I sat outside, and then out of the blue, Cherie pops up at the hospital to sit with me because I was bugging out outside the hospital. And the longer the time he spent in there, but they were really good. That hospital was really good. They kept coming out, talking to me, giving me updates. And then finally, when they decided that, they were going to admit him, I knew I had to go home. That was the hardest drive back home ever. Part of my mind was, I was battling a lot of, thoughts that I didn't want to claim as my thoughts, Didn't know if that was going, because before they wheeled him up, they were just going to wheel him off. I said, hold up. And so I said, let me hug him. I hugged him one last time. And then when I'm driving home, I'm like, part of my mind's going, that's it, and the other half is like, shut up, that's not it, and it was a hard drive. And when I got home, being home alone, we live alone, there's nobody else here, and then everybody went quarantine. We got shelter in place, nobody could come see me, I couldn't see anybody, and I'm just sitting in a house full of memorabilia, looking at things and wondering am I going to see him put that shirt on again? Am I going to, what am I doing? What am I planning? You know what I mean? What is going on? And it was so difficult. I can't even explain how that was hard. That part was hard.
I can only imagine. One thing that COVID has taught us is just there's a whole other brutal side of the virus, which is the isolation that it creates for the person that's impacted and sick, and then and hospitalized, and the loved ones that are left at home, and especially being quarantined. To your point, like, there's no one that can give you a hug. There's no one that can come sit with you. I mean, that's just a devastating part of the virus. Is almost the loneliness that it creates as a byproduct of it. Tony, if you will, I think within 12 hours of being admitted, you were on the ventilator. So can you kind of walk us through, what was from that point on, what do you remember? Because it is a miracle that you came off the ventilator. I mean, that's just absolutely incredible. And how you came off the ventilator was also absolutely incredible, because there was a little self-medicating that went on in there. But kind of, tell us about what that is even like.
Well, like you said, I felt alone at first when I realized I had the COVID and no one could come see me. And it was just that sense of loneliness. However, the hospital I was at, they was great. And they knew I was a nurse, and they kept telling me, one of ours was going to take good care of you. And it's like I had a nurse angel. Like this nurse, I don't know who she was, but she would, because the hospital I was in, I felt like I was in a fish tank, because there's nothing but all glass and you're just in a room by yourself, but it's like all glass so they can watch you. And there's one nurse, she kept doing me prayer signs. She kept putting up prayers for me on the, taping to the window saying, Antonio, we got you, you're gonna be strong. So I felt confidence in that, my sense of faith kicked in. Then I was like, okay, I'm gonna be okay. I got people praying for me. I got these nurses, I'm one of them, they're gonna take good care of me. So that felt really good. But during my time on the ventilator, I was at 100%, meaning the machine was breathing for me like totally. I wasn't breathing at all. Then I had the miraculous event of actually meeting and actually talking to God, and that was like a wonderful experience for me. I mean, I was on my knees, like begging for my life, and then He said, "Get off your knees, son." And to me, that hit me to my core, because I don't have kids, but I watch other people with their kids, and when they say son or daughter, that's a term of endearment, because He knows us. He knows me. He could have said Tony, and Tony will get up, but He said, "Son, get up." And then the next thing was around. He said, "Come stand on the right side of me." And I was really blown away. And then He had the angels surrounding me and surrounding Him. And He said, "I got you. You don't have to worry no more. I've been with you because I was doubting, my faith was doubting. And to that point, He said, "I've been with you every step of the way." He said, "I could have been healed you when you were sick at home, but you wouldn't have a story to tell. You wouldn't have no testimony. So I had to let you go through certain things so that you could have a testimony, but you was never alone. I was always with you every step of the way, there, watching everything, watching the doctors and everything." So that was a miraculous thing for me. And knowing that, and then coming off the ventilator, I was kind of confused, of course, because I was on since Sunday. When I woke up, I thought it was Monday. And when they told me it was Thursday, I was like, "What? It's Thursday." So I was really flipping out about that.
That was the first time.
That's the first time.
When you
Yeah.
self
Oh yeah, I was
yourself.
pulling stuff out. I put my NG tube out the head. I was pulling the ventilator off me. I started pulling mad tubes off, and then they strapped me down, and I was knocked out. I woke up. I was like trying to pull off the stuff again, but I was like strapped down to the bed. I was like, "Let me off, let me out. I'm trying to get out of here. I'm trying to fight for my life." And so that was an amazing thing to go through. I mean, it was very. I wouldn't want to go through it again. It was very challenging for my faith and everything like that.
Well, earlier in that day, the day that he pulled the tube out, the nurse, because Alan, you know this, and many people who were talking to me daily know this, but they had basically assumed that Tony was not going to make it. And they had called the hospice, the palliative team to me and wanted his last rites, wanted me to plan for, the end. I refused to accept that. And I made them take that out of their mouth. But during that time, because they had him under palliative care, the nurses would call me and let me Zoom to see him because I couldn't be there, or talk to him on the phone, even though he was in a coma, he was fully on a ventilator. That particular day, I called him and I was just talking, I don't know, like 30, 45 minutes, just talking. He's not responding. He's on a coma. I'm talking, just talking. He can hear me though. They said his sedation was at that point was not as deep, so he could hear me. He just could not respond. And so I talked his head off. I told him funny stories about things that happened, about how Cherie and them got chased off the roof. Steve, Cherie, Dion, Nanita, they got chased off the roof by the cops because they were violating quarantine, trying to support me. And I talked about, different things that were funny and just talking. And then later on that evening, the phone rings and it always said the name of the hospital. So I was like, "Oh my God, it's the hospital." So I pick up and all I hear is, "Hello." I said, "Hello?" He said, "Hey, baby." I said, "T?" And I said, "Well, how are you calling me?" He said, "I pulled the tube out." And I said, "You pulled the tube out? You pulled the tube out?" And then I'm like, what? Where's the nurse? Where's the so-and-so? Call the doctor. And he was like, and I said, "Why did you do that?" And then he said, by accident, but then he started chuckling. And then, and I said, he said, "Well, when you called me," he said, "you were saying some funny stuff and I wanted to tell you and respond." I said, "No, that's not how you respond. You get well, then you respond. You don't pull tubes out." And he was like, "I wanted to hear you. I wanted to talk to you." And I said, "Okay, good." But then that night he started to crash again, and they had to put the ventilator back in. But that was, I was like, "Well, I won't be calling you anymore and talking to you until you're fully off the ventilator."
Don't get him going. Don't get him too excited. We got a few minutes left. one of the things I've come to know about both of you is just how powerful a faith that you share together, and also how willing you are to share vulnerability with people around you. You're willing to ask for help. You're willing to ask for prayer, and so if you would, could you just share briefly like the role that faith and your support system played in helping you both kind of get through this time?
Mhm. Well, faith definitely played a role in it. This is an incredible woman here. I don't know, like when I was able to wake up and look at Facebook and stuff, I saw she was praying, but she had over 10,000 people praying for me. And that blew my mind. I was like, I don't even know 10,000 people, but yet she got the prayer words together with her faith, and there's praying for every day. She was praying for me, and it just really felt so good that, I was covered in prayer.
Awesome.
Yeah, for me, because I was battling fear, and there's nothing wrong with fear. Fear is a natural thing. It helps to remind us of a greater power that exists. It helps us not to totally rely on oneself. It helps us to lean on the resources, and that would be friends, family, other loved ones, community members I did not know. While I was quarantined, because once Tony got sent positive, I had to quarantine as well. So that means, and I live in a condominium, my neighbors, some of who would never met me before on different floors, were bringing me food, bringing me supplies, bringing me things, checking in on me, bringing my mail, bringing my packages, taking out the trash, all of those different things. Friends, family, those are all resources. But sometimes when everything is all good, you forget about all the things you have, and how blessed you are to have them, and how impactful they can be in your life. And so while I was battling fear, it was my faith that reminded me that it's okay because I feel weak. And I remember even talking to you and Alan later, and I was crying, saying, I'm not strong. This ain't me, I'm not the strong one. I can't handle this. I feel weak. But then I remembered, that God's power is made perfect in my weakness. And so once I had that in my head, I realized I need to lean on these resources. I need to lean on these folks, and I need to call on that. All that pulled together is what brings the power of God together, and I believe nobody can convince me no other way. Nobody that his healing has nothing to do with anything but God did it. And he used all of you, and he used everybody in my community. I can't even tell you, forever, I will be forever grateful. Forever, I will be forever thankful. I can't even figure, I've been trying to think out what more powerful word I can come up with other than thank you. You guys, I have family, I have friends, I have church friends, but I want to tell you, my family of St. John's held me down. You guys will call Alan. You call me every night and prayed with me. See, nobody knows that about Alan. He's a chameleon. He can do many things. Between Rich, George, Cherie, Brittany, John, Steve, Shakira, Kim, they were holding prayer sessions that I didn't know about. They were holding, I got so many texts, emails, phone calls, uncountable number of people, from board members. Linda text me every single day to check on me. You know what I mean? So you guys have been the most impactful thing. As far as a work family, most people don't have this. I'm telling you, most people don't have this. You guys did your thing. Every email, I read every single last one of them. Every one of those lifted me up. And so I want to say thank you.
That is absolutely just so powerful. There's not enough words to do it justice beyond what you all both shared. And I want to thank you both for your willingness to share this story and be so vulnerable. It's amazing. And it was amazing just for my part to see the St. John's family rallying together around the two of you. And I know all of that was happening well before I ever showed up, and I've just been humbled to be a part of it and see that. But it's something that is unique and incredibly different with St. John's, and it's a very special part of our organization is that sense of community and that sense of family. Tony, your story is inspirational. I think I saw a stat coming out of New York that 88% of people that went on the ventilator didn't come off of that, you know, and it's incredible. The determination, the faith that you had to overcome this adversity is nothing short of miraculous and inspirational. And so we want to give you something in honor of that. So we have a little something for you. As a symbol of how inspirational you have been to us. And Precious, if you wouldn't mind pulling that out of that box and give that to him, that would be great. So.
Well,
He snuck here.
he snuck it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God.
It's a big guy.
Should I open it?
Yeah, he's free to open it. Yeah, please do.
What's in there? Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Yes, yes. Oh, wow. Everybody signed it.
Oh my God.
I can show. Can you see it? I don't think see it.
Yeah.
The show. I can show.
Yo, Steve, you see this?
So there's a story behind this that, in case people aren't aware, I'll just share really briefly. So I believe Tony is a pretty big Avengers universe, Marvel's universe fan. There's in the last movie of Endgame, Captain America basically gets his ass kicked by Thanos, and Thanos destroys his shield.
Yes, yes.
Captain America goes rolling away, and then Captain America does what Captain America always does. He gets up on his feet, he straps the shield to his arm, and he steps forward even when the armies of Thanos are coming. And I saw that. I sent that clip to Precious, and I said, Precious, Tony is Captain America. He might be getting beat up. COVID might be beating him down right now. But this man is going to stand up, and he's going to keep fighting and keep battling, and he's going to come home. And you truly have been an inspiration. And so that shield is symbolic in the sense of reminding us all of, down, but get up and keep going. And just thank you both for all that you mean to St. John's, all that you've given to St. John's, all that you've given to us, and certainly for the love of the people you support, and just for being willing to share your story. You guys are amazing.
Thank you all. Thank
You made his day. I'm telling you.
Yeah, no, if it'll work with your
If he
decor.
goes to bed with this, I'm dropping it back over there on the other side of that bridge. I'm telling you, this thing is.
And then also, by the way, the cover that it came in, shout out to Sandra, who had that custom made to make. It's really cool. So, but yeah, that's all set. And there's a couple also custom made masks for you guys that are there. But, I just want to thank you for taking the time. Thank you for doing this episode of Champions in the Crisis. And thank you both for being who you are. You're amazing. So thank you so very much, guys.
Thank you,
guys.
family.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right. So I paused the recording, so that's cool. That was fun. I told you all this would be a very special town hall, right? Like being able to hear their stories, just there's nothing like it. It's incredible. And I look forward to being able to be together physically again with everyone and just celebrate moments like this. As much as I know We've gone through tragedy and challenges. We've lost people that we love. We have people that are hospitalized. We have people that are sick. We also need to celebrate the things that are remarkable and celebrate those miracles. And, you know, I've kind of said this, some of you heard me say this. I used to work in a faith-based organization. I know technically St. John's is not a faith-based organization, but after getting to meet so many people like Tony and Precious and getting to know them and others, we are certainly faith-filled. And I love the fact that we can celebrate the diversity of faith in our organization, in that people are in this. There's a centeredness that motivates people beyond themselves, which is incredible. So we're so grateful, Tony and Precious, for sharing your story with us today. I want to just open it up as we wrap up the meeting. I'm just curious if anyone has any questions. I'm willing to hang out for a little bit and answer any questions that people may have or engage. You're free to go. Thank you for taking the time and being part of this special town hall. Please have the most safe holiday you can this weekend, but have a wonderful time with your loved ones, with your family, and just, you know, make the most of the time that we have. It is precious, whether we're spending it inside alone, whether we're spending it remotely, you know, doing Zoom meetings with our family and loved ones. It's still precious time to have this life that we have, and we should celebrate that this weekend. And certainly we give thanks for those who have served and have given the ultimate sacrifice and given their lives so that we can have the freedoms that we have. And also for their families, we thank them for the sacrifices that they've made as a result of that, their loved ones sacrificing their lives. So I'll hang out. Our meeting's officially adjourned. And if anyone has questions, please feel free to hang out. And I will unmute everyone. It could get rowdy, but I'll unmute everyone.
So generous. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Oh, rum cake. Rum cake. Oh, I don't know what this is.
I'll hang out for
I don't know what that is.
everybody.
Like 2 trays of cake.
Yeah, so let me see. You got 5. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, this must be yours. I don't know. You know. Okay, let me tell you.
Unmuted and free to stay.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Have a great weekend. Bye, Precious and Tony.
That's a great background. That's awesome.
Hi, Precious and Tony.
I'm trying to get out of here. Oh, shoot. Oh.
I'm loving your whole vibe.
Sandra always got the best background.
You need to do a tutorial.
I can do that.
Yeah, I see. I see.
Bye. Love y'all.
Hold on, Mom. Hey, Eric.
Hey, that was good.
Yeah, man. I didn't really know how grave it had gotten, you know. But that's a miracle, straight miracle, man.
But you know,
Mhm.
I know his life is
Okay, you should have just let it ride.
Hi. Me, I should go and sleep, but I got so much work to do.
Lloyd, we hear all about
I'm so sorry.
He's off mute. It's a free for all at this point.
Oh, he took off.
Wait, what ballpark is that?
Huh?
I was wondering what ballpark that was.
Bush Stadium in St. Louis.
Oh, cool. Very cool. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Bet you're looking forward to that being open again.
At some point, definitely.
So have they officially said they're going to kick off in July? And then, are they doing it in Florida or Arizona or something?
I don't know. Last I heard, they're still going back and forth. You know, I don't know if they're going to bring it up or not. It'd be interesting to see it. I don't know how they're gonna squeeze in a partial season, I guess, but
Yeah.
it'd be nice to see some live action.
For sure. I wonder if ticket prices will go up with social, if they have to do any kind of social distancing and minimize the number of people in the stand.
They ought to just open it up and let people come. I mean, it's been a wash already. You know, this year they lost so much money. I mean, they're not
Oh,
going
they definitely have lost some money.
Yeah.
Lost a lot of money for sure.
Guess who was in the office that day?
That shield is awesome, Tony.
I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna use it too. I'm gonna use it.
We're not going outside. We're not
You
going
go
outside.
use it to keep Precious at bay when she gets hyped.
Take your time.
He said he's going outside with it. I said, no, you're not. No, you're not.
On my bike. On my bike.
No, you're not gonna do that.